Hey everyone, today I'm creating some Christmas cards using the October 2023 SheetLoad of Cards template from Call Me Crafty Al. All the links are below on how to get the sketch. It's intended to use two 12 by 12 pieces of pattern paper and yield 8 cards. I use this A5 pack from Paper Rose called Jolly Holidays. And you will be able to see a link below to all of the things that I've used in the video, but also I'm part of the collaboration team, so you will find a link to the playlist for all the other collaborator videos. Everybody always takes a totally different approach to these sketches, so I highly recommend checking out all the other creators if you haven't already. So I'm just sorting through the paper here and I'm putting all of the busy designs at the bottom and all of those that are kind of color blocking or more of a base color at the top. I'm trying to work out, will I put the busy papers as the 5 by 3.75 matting layer at the bottom or as part of the interest level at the top? So I'm not quite sure at this stage which one I'm going to do, but because I'm using A5 paper, I'm working out how many pieces can I get from each sheet to make up as many cards as possible. I just grabbed my notebook and started scribbling little pictures. I work better visually, and so I'm just drawing out the pieces as little rectangles here. So we've got a 2 by 2.75 that actually gets cut in half to do that banner across the middle of the card, and then the other size is a 3.75 by 5. And so I numbered those A and B, or gave them letters, and then I worked out for A, you get 2 from each sheet, and for B, you get 8. So this means that I need a 1:4 ratio when I'm sorting through the pattern papers. It was a little tricky to match them up initially, and I did decide that I would use the Ho Ho Ho, which is quite busy, with some really muted tones in the background. And then for a couple of these, you can see I've actually got 4 of the really busy papers and then a plain one to go on top. It was my preference to put the busy papers on the top and the darker colours on the bottom, but I guess you've just got to work with how the numbers roll with the pattern papers, and it worked out really well in the end. So cutting this down was super easy. I literally just cut a bit off the edge at the 5-inch mark, and then I'm chopping these both down to be the 3.75. So I run through and I do 4 sheets of paper with just these simple cuts. And then when I get to that burgundy or red color on the right hand side, I will chop that down to the 2 by 2.75 and I'll get 8 out of this sheet. It does mean that out of the 5 sheets of paper, I end up with 8 cards, which is great. So I think out of all of this, I ended up with, gosh, I don't even know how many. If I got 8 from those lots, probably about 40 cards out of the paper pack. I will possibly count them at the end. There are some little bits that I'm trimming here off the edge, and I don't like to waste those. The Paper Rose paper is gorgeous, so I will use those for another project. The black matting layers on this make the papers absolutely pop. So I'm really glad I decided to follow the sketch pretty closely. I did pre-cut all of my black matting layers for both the small panels and the big panels, and then it was really, really easy just to glue these all together and then create this bulk style. You can see here even just layering them onto the white cards, super, super straightforward, no challenges. I used my ATG for most of this because that just seemed faster than using liquid glue or anything else. You can use liquid glue with Paper Rose quite easily if that's all that you have, because it's such thick paper that you'll never see the lines of the glue through it, which sometimes happens when you use really thin paper. Now adding these little pieces here, now they were chopped at 1 inch, so they do end up with 1 big piece and 1 smaller piece. And now I'm just running through and I am just eyeballing it. I'm not measuring, I'm putting 1 on each side, and I'm hoping that when I come back with the square in the middle, things are going to be pretty balanced. Now I did have a bit of an issue when I was doing my chopping, and I cut a couple of the panels incorrectly. And so you can see here on some of the cards, I've just, instead of splitting them and putting them each side, I just created a little rectangle, and then I will embellish those cards and add some die cuts and some interest in a slightly different way. I used a bit of a mixture of interest for these cards. So this is a die cut pack from Uniquely Creative. It's called A December to Remember. And I had hoped that maybe I could use a load of these to finish off the cards, but I do have lots and lots of cards. And the embellishment pack, while I really, really like it, it had a few of these pieces that were quite large. and then lots of smaller pieces that I really wasn't sure how to decorate such an unusual shape card. So here I can put it straight over the gap. I didn't put in the extra square at all, and it just added interest in the spot that was needed on the card. So I think I go through and do maybe half a dozen of these, 6 or 8. I also have on my desk my leftover die cuts and sentiment packs from the Oh What Fun kit from Spellbinders. I've done a couple of videos using these, and these are my leftovers. But what I found is they were really, really bright red and had loads and loads of pink in them, which really didn't match the kind of burgundy and dark green colours of this Paper Rose paper pack. So I moved on from those pretty quickly and thought I need to come up with another plan. I did actually put this project aside for a few days while I was thinking about how I was going to do it. And you'll see in a moment that I came up with a couple of different creative ways to, I guess, finish off the different cards based on if they had the ho ho ho, which really leads towards, one of our jolly Christmas folk, or the one that had just the decorations with the stars. And then I think the other one was maybe ones that were completely plain. We will see in a moment, I guess. So for this part, I literally just have my liquid glue and I'm just running through some of the bigger embellishments. I actually did this pretty quickly for me. I did not have analysis paralysis, which is where you get really, really particular about what you put where on a card. I ran through them and was pretty happy with how I went. So here is my plan B for what to do for these cards. Now you can't see it very well, but I have the little white squares on a piece of white paper here because my stamp is bigger than the square, and I'm just adding a black outline Santa. Now I just did not have the time or the energy to do a whole lot of colouring, so I was a bit worried about what this was going to look like. I was hoping that I had in my stash kind of a sketchy style Santa where when you stamped him, I could do him in green or burgundy or black, and he would look super cool. This was the best that I could come up with. This is a Simon Says stamp set, Winter Friends, and this Santa is the perfect size to fit on these squares, and I'm just using my Versafine black ink, Onyx black, and then I put those aside to dry. The next set of cards are the ones I had forgotten about. These are the ones that have Christmas trees on the background where I just put the rectangle without splitting it like the original sketch. And I decided that if I used a couple of trees, and I'm just stamping these out with a couple of Versafine ink pads. I've got a really dark green here, and then I've got a really bright green. And I've got one big tree and one small tree, which means when I go through and stamp these, die cut them out and layer them up on the card, they will have a bit of contrast with the tall and short tree, but then also the dark and light colour. I find that if you mix it up a little bit, they work pretty well. On the next set of cards, this is where it doesn't really have anything Christmas just yet. So I have this stamp set from last year where it has a whole bunch of Christmas sayings, and I found the perfect size to go onto the 2x2 white squares. Hey, I'm super curious if you've made your Christmas cards already. I have started, and I have various ones put aside that I want to use for this year. I make so many cards that I end up having lots to pick from, and I do donate a lot of them to different charities and organisations. But have you finished yours? I mean, I know it's just the beginning of October, but it felt like a good time to really get started with some of these Christmas cards using the sketches, especially when I use an entire paper pad and I end up with bulk. Now, I'm looking at how I'm putting these together here, and I have another question, a question on a question. I did decide to go with just leaving this outline sketch of Santa Claus. I'm wondering if you think he needs to be coloured in. Now, I really did not have the time and was not keen on including, Copic colouring or something else to get this Santa Claus coloured. So I've gone with just a black and green style card with the ho 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 on the side, and then the Santa in the middle, literally just black on white and then matted in a black layer. So what do you think of those cards? I'm super curious and would like to get some feedback. All right, with these ones, I'm just gluing these on. I just added a little sentiment down at the bottom right-hand corner, just falling off the edge of the rectangle to add a little bit of interest, and I was able to finish all of those cards off too. I have put another video here that I think you might enjoy. Have a great day.